Hello, this is Tracy Kiernan from stepbysteppainting.net, and in this painting tutorial video I'm going to show you how to paint this candy cane bubbly New Year's painting with acrylics on an 11 by 14 inch canvas. I used two different brushes for the background of this painting, a 3/4 inch flat wash brush and also this round mop brush that happens to be a makeup blending brush. It works really well for blending colors. I also used two colors in the background, Prussian Blue and Titanium White. So I'm going to go ahead and load my palette with both of those colors. And I'll start with the flat brush. So I'm going to load my brush in the water and kind of pat it dry and load it with the Prussian Blue. So this background is a blend that starts in the upper right corner and goes down to the lower left corner. So it's the darkest up in this area and then it gets lighter in the lower left corner. So I'm going to apply my strokes in sort of like a curved motion, but the strokes are actually going kind of in different angles. So I'm just kind of texturing the strokes pretty much to get that color applied to that area. So in this whole upper right area of my canvas, it's going to be this really dark Prussian blue. I'm going to apply that a little bit more, going diagonally down. And again, I'm just doing these textured strokes, kind of cross-hatching, short, angular strokes, kind of flip-flopping my brush. I'll go down a little bit further with this Prussian blue. This is a really beautiful dark blue color. I've been using Prussian blue a lot lately for quite a few of my paintings this winter season. And pretty soon we're going to blend in some white. So we're not going to rinse our brush when we're ready to blend. I'm just going to grab a little chunk of white on my brush and kind of apply it below the Prussian blue area. Then I'm going to take my brush and do the same sort of technique with the bristles. I'm just kind of flip-flopping my brush, making them go angular and kind of dragging that white up into that blue. I'm not going to blend it with the 3/4 flat brush. I'm going to actually grab my blender brush, that makeup brush, and I'm going to take it so that the transition of the white to the blue, so that light blue to the dark blue, that transition area, I'm just taking my brush and I'm painting circular strokes to blend those two colors together. And you're going to get a really pretty sort of swirly texture in there. And that's what we want in this background. It's a really dreamy blue background that is very abstract. We're not really have to worry about blending anything perfectly. We just kind of let the paint do its thing here. And so I'm going to go ahead and repeat that sort of process. Grab some more white on my brush, apply it below, and because there's more white right there, it's lighter, and I'm just going to kind of distribute it in that area with my brush, so angular strokes. And it's okay if you have a stroke of darker blue in there randomly, that's okay. And then do yourself a favor and wipe your blender brush off with a towel. So that's a rag that I have handy. That gets all the excess blue off so that when you are ready to blend the next color, it's not going to drag in some darker blues in there. It's just going to be wiped off. So you just take your brush and paint circular strokes to blend that next color back up into the darker area. Then I'm going to wipe off my 3/4 flat brush. So instead of rinsing it, just wiping it off and then grabbing some more white and applying that white to that area, and basically just repeating the process again, distributing the white, and take the blender brush to blend that back up. So the very bottom of your painting will be the lightest and have the brightest of white. So get some pure white there on the bottom, and then get your blender brush and blend that back up as well. If you want to add more color, you can take your blender brush and grab some more of the Prussian blue and the white. Just be really careful because your paint is most likely dry up there and is not very workable at this point. But I'm just taking some of my blue and white and just kind of adding it up into this area a little bit more with my blender brush. Just getting this darker blue to blend a little bit better with that lighter blue. Next, we're going to paint the table line of our picture. So we're going to add this blue sort of rectangular area towards the bottom of the canvas. And I'm just going to take my T-square ruler and measure about 3 or 4 inches on the bottom. Doesn't have to be exact. And you can also use a straight edge and draw a line or get a piece of painter's tape and apply that. So whatever you want to do. But I'm just going to take the straight edge and define my horizontal area, and then I'll lift up my ruler and fill in the rest. So this whole area is painted a nice solid Prussian blue. I'm also using that 3/4 flat wash brush to do this. This is optional, but if you want to add a bit of color variation in there, grab a bit of white on your brush and apply that white towards the bottom of that Prussian blue. It'll lighten the bottom area, and then gently blend that white back up. In the next step, I'll be drawing the actual martini glass, but that cannot be done until our painting is dry. So I went ahead and used a hair dryer, a paint dryer in this case, to dry my painting. And when it's all dry, we can go ahead and draw. And I will be demonstrating this drawing with a chalk pencil. So this is a Mr. Pencil chalk pencil. If you don't have a chalk pencil, you can use a standard piece of chalk, although I highly recommend these chalk pencils because you can use them to draw thinner lines versus the chalk. It draws the thick lines. We're going to start at the top and draw an oblong sort of oval. It's going to go down in sort of a diagonal triangle shape with a vertical stem and then a saucer shape for the base. So starting at the top, so you're going to kind of have to figure out where that top open part of the glass is. So the very top of it is an oval shape. And you're just going to lightly sketch with your pencil that oval shape. Then we form a triangle shape. So on the left and right side of the oval shape, we're going to do 2 diagonal lines that meet to a point in the middle. So just slightly sketch them and kind of think about where that middle point of the glass will be. So you want that point of the triangle to be right there in the middle. So just lightly sketch those two diagonal lines until they go to a point. And then underneath that point, you have a vertical line for the stem. And that vertical line is going to go down and cross over the table line. Then the base of it is like a saucer shape, like a flying saucer. So it's kind of curved at the top and it's also kind of curved at the bottom. Sort of more flat but curved at the bottom. Then I'm going to give my stem a little bit more of a form other than just a line. So the base of it kind of curves up on both sides. I'm doing this very sketchy, but you kind of curve the bottom part and then the top part kind of curves up a little bit too. And the stem is very thin, but it still has some form. So it's not just a vertical line, it's a very thin rectangle. And the nice thing about these chalk pencils is they erase very nicely. And then I can just kind of take it and define my shape. And we are set to start the painting portion of this. So for the liquid part, or actually I'm going to paint the liquid on the inside of our drink first. And the color I used for that was Naphthol Crimson. It's this really pretty bright red color that shows up nicely against the blue. And I'll be using my number 8 round brush for this step. So it's a round brush that's a little bit thick and it's got a point to the brush. And I'm going to go ahead and add it to the water and apply it to the red. And then I am going to paint the red part of the drink. So starting at the top, I'm just going to define that top part of the liquid. And it's not exactly perfectly horizontal, it kind of dips down a little bit. And then I'm just going to paint the rest of this area in with the red. And it's a triangle shape, so I'm going to fill that triangle shape in. But I'm doing outlining strokes to outline the triangle shape, but filling it in on the inside part, I'm doing these sort of curved strokes to fill it in. And I'm not painting it all the way to the drawing. I'm leaving a tiny bit of a gap between my chalk pencil line and my red liquid line. Then we're going to do some shadowing in our liquid. I loaded the very tip of my brush in the Prussian Blue, and I'm going to apply that to the very bottom of my liquid area. So this part down here is going to be pretty dark. It's that Prussian Blue, and it's going to blend with the red. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe my brush off now that I applied that Prussian Blue to the bottom, and I'm just going to take my brush and gently blend it up. Prussian Blue is such a strong color that it easily will take over if I had too much blue on there. So just a teeny tiny bit will get it to give it a shadowy area on the bottom. So I'm just gently stroking that dark blue up into the red. And definitely add more red to your brush. As you can see, that's kind of what I did. Added more red to my brush and kind of gently stroked, sort of curved horizontal strokes up into the liquid. And it doesn't have to blend all the way. It can be kind of unblended in there. It's kind of a swirly drink. It doesn't all have to be the same color consistency throughout. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a light area at the top. So we're going to mix white with some Naphthol Crimson. And I'm just going to take that light red color and paint an oval area at the top of my liquid area. So this is the very top part of the drink. And you can add just a teeny bit of white in there at the very, very top, but not too much white right now because the bright part is going to be on the glass, especially when we do some of the glare of the glass later. So we're done with the liquid part. I'm going to go ahead and rinse my number 8 brush off, set it to the side, and grab a number 4 round brush. And so this is a smaller round brush that's got a nice point to it. I'm just going to load it in the water and kind of pinch my fingers to get those bristles to go to a nice point. The reason why I'm doing this is we're going to be painting the actual lines that we drew with the chalk with the white paint, and we got to have a really nice point to our brush to do this because the lines are so thin. You can also do this with a white paint pen or a really tiny liner brush if you have one of those, but I really like this number 4 round brush and I feel capable to do these thin lines with it. So you got to have pretty good control with the brush here. I'm basically just painting over all of my chalk lines with the white paint, and because it's chalk, it's going to be erasing as I paint it, but naturally we'll have some lines of the chalk still showing through, or if you use the traceable and you still have graphite paper lines still showing, we'll be able to erase that at the very end. So after our painting dries, if we still see chalk lines or drawing lines or anything, you'll be able to get a regular eraser and erase it later. And I'm just drawing all my lines, and right there at the bottom, that's kind of an important piece right there, that little curved line I drew or I painted right there under the liquid where that glass, the bottom of the glass is. So that little curved line's important. And then the base of our martini glass gets a little bit tricky, but you can do it. Basically, I'm just taking the white and I'm just kind of applying the paint to the base of it. I'm going to have my strokes go kind of diagonal, but then they're going to kind of curve to form the shape of the base. So I'm just painting these little diagonal lines that kind of curve a little bit. I'm not filling it all in. There's some space still at the bottom with the blue still showing through. And I'm just going to grab this Prussian blue on my brush without rinsing the brush. And I'm going to add Prussian blue to the bottom of my base. And I'm going to blend it up. And remember, Prussian blue is such a strong color that you only need a little bit of it. And then grab more white on your brush and use that white to help blend it. So what we're trying to achieve here is a darker color of the Prussian blue on the bottom of our base and a lighter color of white at the top. And I'm just going to go ahead and blend a little bit more white at the top and kind of create some form with this base by painting these sort of curved lines that go in the shape of that base. Then I grabbed white right here and kind of outlined the bottom part of the base with the white. And I'm just taking this white and I'm going to go ahead and paint my stem in. Give it that form shape at the bottom where it kind of curves and then it kind of goes vertical. And then I'm adding a bit more white to the top part here to give it a little bit of glare, but right now there's a lot of paint on there. It's not really going to do much anymore. So then I'm going to go ahead and do this lovely step. This is such an effective technique here, but add a little bit of Prussian blue to the tip of your brush and then outline some of your lines with that dark blue. This is really going to create a pretty effect with the glass. Don't outline all of it, so we're not trying to cover all the white. We're only outlining some of the areas with the dark blue. And there's not much room for shadow on this because I didn't leave much room under the blue, but if you have a nice space under there, you can actually take more of that Prussian blue and add darker area underneath the base of your glass, and that'll make it look like there's a little bit of a shadow underneath. Go ahead and rinse your brush and freshen up your Naphthol Crimson if you need to. I'm going to use the Naphthol Crimson to paint a bow on the stem of the glass. You can also customize the color of this bow. If you don't want to do red, you can do green or a blue or yellow. So I'm just taking the number 4 round brush and I'm painting the pretty little bow on the stem. So just the 2 little hoops and a fun curly sort of tail, and I'm just taking this and making it a little bit thicker. If the paint of your glass is dry and you still see your chalk lines, then you can go ahead and erase your chalk lines a couple ways. You can use a paintbrush, a clean wet paintbrush to erase your chalk lines, or you can use a regular eraser. So I'm just taking my wet brush and I'm erasing my chalk lines that way. Next, I'm going to do a candy cane, and I'm just taking my number 4 round brush and titanium white, and I'm going to sketch out the shape of my candy cane. If you don't feel comfortable just painting the candy cane in here, you can get your chalk or chalk pencil and draw it in first until you feel comfortable with your candy cane shape. I know candy canes can be a little bit tricky, but I'm just sketching it out with my brush and my white paint. I'm starting at the top and doing that sort of curve, and it's going to go into the glass so that the shape of the curve is hanging out over the side of the glass. It goes down into the liquid, and the bottom of it is curved. And then when you have the outline of your shape painted out, you want to go ahead and fill that in solid with titanium white. So all of that gets painted in. The part where the candy cane is submerged in the liquid would not be pure white. It'd be a little bit maybe darker. So I went ahead and mixed a light pink on my palette. So mix a whole bunch of white with a teeny bit of Naphthol Crimson. And at the bottom of the candy cane where it's submerged in the liquid, I just painted that in with that color. And now that I have this pretty light pink on my brush, I'm just going to take it and have some fun with it. So I took that light pink and painted the top part of my liquid a little bit, right there where it overlaps the candy cane. And I also took that light pink and added a few highlights on my bow. I'm going to get all my brushes rinsed off, and I'm going to get my number 4 brush ready. We're going to do a dry brush technique of applying a glare to our glass. So this dry brush technique requires you to have a rag or a paper towel handy, because we're going to load our brush in the white, And then we're going to wipe it off with the towel. And when you wipe it off, it makes it so there's barely any paint left on your brush. Then I'm going to take my dry brush and apply the glare on the inner part of our glass towards the top. Just a few strokes and it should look very dry and scratchy, translucent, whatever you want to call it, but this is going to create the effect that the glass has a glare on it or is shiny. And then I'm going to take it, and as long as that red is dry, we should be okay. Adding a kind of a diagonal line close to our line that we painted to outline our glass shape. So a little bit of a glare right there that overlaps the red. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint another sort of diagonal line on the other side. A few little strokes. That one turned out a little bit thicker, but that's okay. And then so each time I load my brush, I'm wiping it off again to ensure that it's going to be the dry brush style. And I added a little bit of a glare in the upper left and a little bit on the inside part of the upper left and upper right. And then on the bottom here, this little curved area can have a little bit of a glare. And then if there's room for any more glares on the base, we can go ahead and add a little bit of a brighter line in that area as well. And maybe a little bit on the stem too. And then maybe on the top part of the liquid, there might be a tiny bit of white over here at the top. We're going to go ahead and rinse and do a super fun part next. We're going to add the little candy cane pieces on the rim of the glass. So this step was done with the number 4 round brush, and we're still using the Naphthol Crimson and the titanium white. So all I'm going to do, this is super easy, is take my red and paint little dots all along the rim. So with little red dots. And because it's candy cane pieces, we'll naturally have white in there as well. So you can also dip your brush in the white. So red with a little bit of white, and add those little tiny stippling dots all along the rim of your glass. You may be wondering why I didn't do the candy cane part where it would be overlapping the actual candy cane. I go back over that later. I just forgot to do that little gap right there. So what I'm going to do next is paint these stripes of the candy cane, and I chose green stripes and red stripes. I did thicker green stripes and some thin red stripes. So what I'm going to do first with the Hooker's Green Hue Permanent Color and the number 4 round brush is I'm just going to paint these sort of curved diagonal lines going all along the candy cane. So right here is where I decided that I should probably get my candy cane candy rim to overlap the candy cane properly. So I just took my little round brush and completed the dots so they overlap. And then I went ahead and finished the rest of my green stripes. I did red in the middle, but the red stripes were not as thick as the green ones. They were a lot thinner, so I did that in between all of my green stripes. Next, I'm going to draw the ornament that's on the table next to the glass. And I used a circle that was about 3 inches in diameter. This is actually one of those brush cleaner tins, plastic circle things. And I used that to trace with my chalk pencil. So we have our circle, and then we're going to go ahead and draw the top piece. So it's kind of going diagonally, although you can make it go at a different angle if you want it to go kind of vertical, and then draw the little hook that's attached to it. So you can make your ornament any color. I debated for a while what color I wanted to do mine, but I settled on green for good luck for the 2021 year. So I am using Hooker's Green Hue Permanent to paint my ornament, and this is a number 8 round brush. So I'm just taking that circle and filling it in solid. And then we want to go in and add some white to this ornament. And I'm just taking my white, and on the upper left area of the circle, I'm just blending that in with the green. So it's super bright on the edge, and then I just kind of paint really fast in sort of circular strokes to blend that with the green. I'm going to be using Prussian Blue for the shadowy area. So on the lower right part of the circle, that's going to be Prussian Blue. And instead of rinsing my brush, I'm just going to wipe it off, grab some Prussian Blue. You may need to freshen yours, but mine was still wet. And then paint a little bit of that blue at the bottom. It mixes nicely with the green, and just blend it up. That'll create a shadowy area in your ornament. And I'm just painting circular strokes, and then kind of in the middle it kind of goes more vertical right there in the middle, but then on the edges the strokes go circular, so that'll give your ornament some form. And then a little bit more blue right there on the edges. For the top piece of the ornament and the little hook, I used Prussian blue and white. So I started with white and mixed a little bit of Prussian blue in it to make it kind of an off-white color. It kind of depends on your background. If it's the same shade of the background, it's not really going to show up or give it much contrast. So it kind of just depends on how dark or light your background is there. You could just do it white. You can do it gray if you want to grab gray, but I didn't want to add gray to my color palette, and I'm not using any Mars black in this painting. So we just have the white and blue to work with there. And then so it's kind of a light blue color. And then the hook part is actually just Prussian blue, and I just outlined it with the Prussian blue. And then I'm going to do a little bit of outlining on this top piece. So on that trapezoid, it's kind of a trapezoid shape. And I'm just outlining kind of the bottom area and top and the right a little bit to get that to stand out a little bit better. Then I'm going to paint the holly that's attached to the candy cane. So this was done with Hooker's green with a little bit of white. So adding a teeny bit of white to your green, and go ahead and paint your holly leaves. So I'm using the number 4 round brush for that, and I'm outlining the shape of the leaf. And to create more contrast in there, so if the background's super dark there and that green's not showing up, just grab a little bit of white on your brush, and that'll make your green brighter and more opaque and make it stand out a little bit better. And then so there's 2 holly leaves on this, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw the next one in, so the edges of it, using the tip of the brush and just painting it, and pop of white in there to get that green to be nice and bright against the dark background. Then I'm going to paint the berries of our holly leaves here. So with the Naphthol Crimson and the number 4 round brush, I'm going to paint 3 circles right on the base. So if you're kind of worried that your green isn't dry enough, you can get use your blow dryer and or take a break and come back. But I'm just doing it kind of under the green, so I'm not overlapping any of the green per se. And so 3 circles with the red, and grab a teeny bit of white on the tip of your brush and do a curved line on the right side of each of those circles. That'll get your red to pop a little bit and give it a little bit of a highlight. The next thing I'll be demonstrating are the fireworks of this painting. And so I used the number 4 round brush for the fireworks, and I used 3 colors. You can do your fireworks different colors if you want, but I used some green. I think I did a yellow firework and a red firework. So starting with the green, I actually mixed a little bit of white with the green because I know that green's not going to stand out without that white. So mix a little bit of white with your green. Start in the middle of your firework, and on the tip of your brush, just drag each little stroke kind of outwards, almost like you're painting a spider. So you start in the middle and you drag it out, and it should sort of kind of fade out. So you have some pressure on your brush at first, and you release the pressure, and it kind of gets thin as it goes outwards. And so there's our first firework. And then for our second firework, we're going to do some yellow. So this is the only time yellow shows up in my painting here with the firework. But pop of a different color in there kind of makes it look a little bit more interesting. And I like the yellow, this yellow. So this is Cad Yellow Medium. So same kind of thing. Start in the middle and drag your stroke kind of outwards. And kind of down a little bit, and your stroke should really kind of fade out on as it goes down. And if you want your firework to look like it's kind of has some firework drippings, I guess paint little dashed lines underneath some of the lines that are, so it makes it look like it's kind of fallen down. And then we'll do a red fireworks. So same technique, start in the middle and drag each stroke outwards and kind of down. And it's a really fast motion. It starts out kind of firm and then you stroke really fast to create that effect with the firework. So those don't look super bright, but what you can do to make them look brighter is get your titanium white and then you can add a layer of white over your fireworks. So I'm just going to take that white and I'm going to apply it over my color right there in the middle. I'm not trying to cover up all my color. I'm only trying to add a white line in the middle of it in order to make it brighter. So you can see how much brighter that yellow firework is already. And I can add a few little drippings under that yellow firework. So I'm going to do the same thing to my green one. Just in the middle of it, not trying to cover up all the green. I'm just using that white to make it brighter. And same thing with the red. So a little bit right there in the middle, and you can see how bright our fireworks have become just by adding that white right there in the middle. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my white and paint snowflakes everywhere. If you don't want to do snowflakes, you don't have to, but I thought I would incorporate the snowflakes in with this. If you'd rather just have fireworks or more fireworks in your painting, you can do that instead. So I'm just going to take this, and these are the same kind of snowflakes I did in my Santa painting a week ago. So I do a little asterisk sort of thing, paint the little sort of carrot shapes on the edges and little diagonal lines, and just sort of zen out and do all different kinds of designs of snowflakes. You can make large ones, you can make small ones, and then you can definitely do little dots everywhere in your painting to make it look like it's snowing. Right here, add a little bit of a highlight to your candy cane. Love that effect. So it's just a white line kind of curved right at the top part of the curve of the candy cane. And then you can add a little bit of highlight to the ornament too. Not much needs to be done to that. For this final step, I'll be painting the year on the ornament. So if you're watching this in 2020 and you want to do your 2021 New Year's painting, you can go ahead and paint the year 2021 or customize it with whatever year you want. You don't have to put a year. You can put a word on it or leave it blank without the number or the word and have it be a timeless painting that you can hang up every year. And so I just painted that in. You can also use a paint pen for that step too. And so this is it. This is the conclusion of how to paint a candy cane bubbly drink for New Year's or Christmas. I hope that you enjoyed painting with me too. Thanks for watching.